Well, let's cross to France 24's Charles Pellegrin, who joins us now from Beijing. Charles, when you listen to the two narratives with regard to these talks from the two sides, very different pictures are being painted, aren't they?
Absolutely. Let's start by looking at the U.S. readout of these meetings between Wendy Sherman and her Chinese counterparts. It actually starts off in a very conciliatory tone, offering condolences for the damage caused by the floods in Henan last week, and saying that actually the United States welcomes cooperation in some areas with China, and that it actually also welcomes healthy competition, but not conflict. But then quite quickly it moves on to list a number of grievances that Washington has with Beijing, referring to the genocide in Xinjiang, referring to the anti democratic crackdown in Hong Kong, or China's lack of cooperation in the WHO investigation into the origins of COVID. So that's the side, the readout on the American side. But on the Chinese side, actually, their summary of what transpired in those conversations came out earlier, and it was almost a direct rebuttal of what Wendy Sherman said, explaining that this strategy on the part of the U.S. of alternating between confrontation and cooperation was doomed to fail, and actually that the United States had no lessons to give China in terms of human rights, as the United States record in that area isn't great either. That was the Chinese position. Really, the gist of the Chinese position here is to say that everything the United States does is to contain China's rise as a world power, and all of this is basically great power competition. So really, there's not been any progress since the last meeting between the delegations from the two countries over 3 months ago in Alaska.
Yeah, and it seems the US-China relationship is at an all-time low, and I'm just wondering where you see things heading to from here, Charles.
Well, actually, for a while, it wasn't even clear that this particular meeting in Tianjin between Wendy Sherman and her Chinese counterparts would actually be taking place. Actually, especially because the United States had been pushing for another earlier meeting between the Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin and his Chinese counterpart, a senior official from the Chinese Central Military Commission. So, really, it's the interesting question here is whether the United States is the one pushing to keep the communications channels open between the two countries, while China is happier to sort of sit back and wait for things to turn its way, and for the exchange to happen on its own terms. But it's too early to say that Biden's strategy of confrontation and cooperation is already a failure. We've already seen his climate czar, John Kerry, in negotiations with his Chinese counterparts, trying to find a way for China and the U.S. to work together on climate change. So in the next few months, we'll really get an idea of whether things are potentially looking better, whether or not Xi Jinping and Joe Biden will actually meet face to face, possibly on the sidelines of the G20 meeting in Italy in October.
Okay, Charles Pellegrin in Beijing. Thank you very much indeed for bringing us up to speed.